Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a Monday. It is a revolution of the mind day. It is the 20th day of July. And you're in tune with the morning show right here on Love FM and Love Television. Too much activity this week. I have my voice almost froggish, but nonetheless, we are here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Glad you could join us wherever you are throughout the length and breadth of this beautiful jewel of ours. And those of you streaming in the diaspora, we're glad you could join us as well. And we trust that this morning's discussion will be exciting and informative. As usual, I'm joined on Mondays. She was on a vacation hiatus, traveling, working, all kind of good stuff going last week. We missed her, the news director, Renee Trujillo. She's here this week. But first, let's get to the Sunday lottery draw. Let's do a recap. When it's Monday, we do a recap of the Sunday lottery draw. First prize was 9454, 9454, with 54 being the single winning number. Second prize, 9074, 9074, and the third prize, 8831, 8831. Missing numbers, 2 and 6. If you won, congrats. If not, you could try the Bolido that comes up tonight. The broadcast is live on Love FM and Love Television at 9:10 p.m. So you got to be in it to win it. This weekend was, for the most part, a huge sporting weekend. Persons who followed, even if you didn't follow the World Cup, you had no choice. You couldn't escape it because it was everywhere. It was on everybody's mind, and it was the thing to do. First off, for me, Renee, I want to say congratulations to the sub-champions, the Belikin Orange Walk Running Rebels, who had lost on Friday night in Orange Walk 70-68 to the defenders. The defenders are the Belize City Defenders are the NEBL National Elite Basketball 2026 champion. Congratulations. So I want to say thank you to all the sponsors of the tournament. It was a great one. You know, the whole concept of basketball is back. Support for the sport is there, and we certainly want to keep this momentum going. So thank you to all who participated. Certainly for my team, the Belikin Orange Walk Rebels, I want to thank my players, fans, sponsors, everybody that made this 2026 season very memorable. I also want to say belated happy birthday to Miss Marie Wagner, who celebrated her 100 years on Saturday as well. So I attended a function for her, and I'm glad that she get to live to 100 years. A milestone that me and you might be shooting for, right?
No thanks.
And of course, on Saturday also was the third place game for the World Cup, where England defeated France 6-4. It was certainly a goal-scoring event, and for fans, that's a great thing. Yesterday, World Cup was exciting as well, and it was a 1-0 win in extra time by Spain. So again, Belizean got an opportunity to kind of see what kind of euphoria could occur once you work hard and get there. So it just means that you have to put in the time.
One lot of bets may go on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One lot of bets may go on, and I know several people will lose who had bets on Argentina.
Yeah, I had a liking for Argentina as well,
So
because
did
I was supporting this hemisphere, this side of the world. But nonetheless, it is what it is in terms of sports. But it certainly was a very enjoyable weekend for me in terms of
You were in your glory.
Yeah,
Sports.
absolutely. I have no, as they say, no shame in your game.
There you go.
Renee, we could take a quick break. It is now 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. We take a break and we come right back. And we're back. It is now 22 minutes to 7 o'clock, and you're in tune to the morning show right here on Love FM and Love Television. Myself, Troy, along with Renee, our news director here at Love FM and Love Television. We're glad you could join us this morning. Renee, very quickly, before we get into domestic issues, geopolitics, new UK Prime Minister sworn in this morning. Andy Burnham takes over from Keir Starmer. This is their seventh Prime Minister in about 10 years. It's like a musical chair for them. And that doesn't help for stability as a major economic power within the globe. But nonetheless, the United Kingdom has a new Prime Minister this morning, Andy Burnham. So as soon as you're starting to get used to a name, they change it. So I don't know how long this one will last. He's leading the Labour Party. More than likely will lead them into the next election. He was the former mayor of Manchester. So he's one would say, a very popular individual. So recently became a member of parliament, an MP, and now Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, or Great Britain, as some people would refer to it. What's been bubbling in your neck of the woods, Renee?
A lot
Nothing?
of things.
Oh.
A lot of things have been happening, and it's kind of interesting to see a lot of these things unfolding and not being able to, or not having an opposition that can muster the support and the kind of opposition, essentially, that they're supposed to be putting out there. There's a lot of things that are questionable that are happening that needs to be looked into. And really and truly, the job of the opposition is to hold the government accountable and protect, essentially. That's what they were elected to do, to ensure that there's that check and balance. And I'm not feeling that power, I'm not feeling that passion from the opposition, and I think that it's rather unfortunate, really and truly. This weekend we had the release of the new ReconDev board. And I'm not too comfortable with it. I'm not too happy with it. It's like recycled players. I could understand you taking the deputy and taking her to promoter and to chairman for continuity purposes. But at the same time, who is that deputy connected to? When you're looking at people who come out of the Oscar Mira camp, when it comes to campaigning, when it comes to his executive committee, you're still, essentially, you took out the brother, but you are still keeping people who are close associates of Oscar Mira. And we all know how this works, Troy. You understand? You can still dominate and you can still rule from the sidelines or from the background. You don't necessarily have to have a seat. You just have to have people connected to you that will have that seat or those seats. And so if you're trying to tell me that, we're addressing the matter, then at least let the optics show that you are addressing the matter, because I don't see a difference.
Yeah.
One or two new names, yes, but everybody else remains the same. And so for me, it's like, if you're really and truly trying to convince the people that you are about transparency and you are about accountability, then don't do things like that. It feels like a slap in the face, like you're taking me for a donkey. You understand? And so for me, I'm not comfortable with that. Um, but I guess it is what it is, and we have to accept what the government is doing because we don't have really and truly an opposition to say, you know what? And who is lobbying for it? You have more lobbying for other issues than you do for national matters like this.
There's two things for me when I look at this whole process. Are we still, or should we still be having an entity, and this is not to the meat of what you're saying, but more looking holistically.
At the bigger picture. Do we need
a
ReconDev? Exactly.
You know, that's an issue. I've asked this question, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago I've been asking.
The thing of it is that about 2 years ago I did a story, maybe less than 2 years ago. I did a story where Pabloca, which was asking for the amalgamation of the Belmopan City Council and ReconDev. And the Prime Minister skirted around that issue when he was asked, you know, are you considering this? And he said, well, you know, the matter never came up, and I just met with Oscar Mira and I just met with Pablo Kawich, and it didn't come up. He didn't answer the question. He didn't answer if it's something that can be considered, you know, and for me, I asked the same thing because ReconDev essentially was established back then to manage Belmopan.
Yeah, because I never had a city council or a council. And if they have land, then you transfer it over to natural resources, or you transfer it to the books of the city council, whichever way. But you kind of have this overlap and duplication for the most part. Yes, it's governed by a piece of legislation that would have to more than likely be repealed.
But how many times have we not done that?
No, you could do the amalgamation. So I look at that in the first.
So it brings
instance.
up the question as well, Troy. Then what is that vehicle being used for?
Well, that's the whole point. How are we making a lot of noise about nothing? I mean, much ado about nothing, in the sense that it's really an irrelevant organization that really just masquerading itself as a sort of baby city council?
Well, I don't think it would be like a much ado about nothing, because those people are getting paid. So that's public money that you're looking at. You have to sustain an office. You have to sustain human resources. So there's an expenditure to that.
Well, the board generally gets stipend, but I agree with you. There's a staff that maybe they have there that is.
No, but when you add up the stipend, the staff, and all of that, there's an expense.
Well, that's why I'm saying, do we need it?
Do you have that overlap in terms of mandate from City Council and from ReconDev? I know that there were expressions that ReconDev kind of blocks City Council sometimes when they're trying to do things. So there's a clash there, which brings up the question time and time again about the amalgamation. But nothing happens. So I think when this entire fiasco happened and they removed Brian Mira as the chair of ReconDev, I think that would have been the ideal time to look at that, and see how they could marry the two of them, you know, instead of maintaining these two entities. But I have lost confidence in terms of how some moves are being made, and ReconDev is one of them. And it saddens me because I see a lot of good things that the government is doing. And you know how human nature is, Troy. They will look at the bad. You could do a million good things and do one, exactly, and do one single bad thing, and everything that you have done that's good essentially goes out the door.
Yeah.
And so it saddens me because I see where the government is doing good, excellent work. But situations like these, they're not handling well. And it's leaving a bad taste in people's mouth, and that can make them lose credibility and favor.
Yeah. My second point was to the issue of the opposition. I know I spend a lot of time on the opposition because they think I have some pet peeve with them.
So petty. The opposition is so petty. Let's not even go there. They're so petty.
That's why I'm not going to waste a lot of time on their situation, because I think that for the most part, they are constantly going down some ill-advised road. And I think we made the point here. I know they get on social media and they had a lot of things to say, but we made the point here that protest / demonstration, whatever they wanted to call it, was ill-advised. It was premature. It was everything. They can't do that again in the near future because they won't get the level of support. I pointed out, somebody called and said, why you beat up on the opposition? But I pay them. I'm paying them. They are also being paid to do a job, and they're doing a poor job at that. And so I have to call it out. So anybody who feels peeved by that, sorry, buddies.
Listen,
you know,
sure, I get beat up all the time that you're the mess with the government. Oh, you're not like the opposition. Oh, you're a UDP. Oh, you're a PUP. They're like what Chief always said, we call for a one party and that the love party.
Me too.
We just call one spade one spade.
And I say this with most humility as well as support for democracy, because the important thing is the optics from the opposition is very terrible, and every time we try to right their ship, they or help them with us from the outside looking in, they see it as negative as opposed to trying to embrace the message. You know, you can't have a protest, and I repeat again, without your key players in the front. You can't have a protest without being able to at least show each division to bring out 50 people. Say, go. And not tell me you've had 2,000 people, because then people just don't want to listen to you again, because that's foolishness. You never had that. You're lucky if you had 300. So cut it out. You know, let's be reasonable and fair. And that is some of the things that I don't have a problem with you looking at these things and working your way in as the politics of it. That's what you are. You are a political party. The government sends out some smart stream situation, and you supposed to salivate and that's supposed to give you the momentum that you need. And I don't have a problem if you latch on to that. I want to shake the hell out of that.
But Troy,
that's your job.
If you really and truly look at things and assess the makeup of that, right? The way the opposition currently stands, there's nobody who has or who understands what really and truly is happening and governance and how the country is run and how the system works. For example, Lee Mark is fresh, Godwin Haylock is fresh. They don't have that public service experience and knowledge as to how things operate. Tracy does, but she pulls back and she says, I was only a minister of state. That's her excuse.
So if she cheapen herself or minimize herself, then she become sort of insignificant. Because if you're saying, well, I know how the experience, so why you want to be prime minister? If you're saying to us you don't have the experience, you weren't given the latitude, you weren't given the respect to take on any major role, so you've miniaturized yourself. So it's a double-edged sword. She's trying to dodge the Bolido thing by shrinking herself, but by shrinking herself, then she becomes less significant. So it's either you'll take on your role as the leader and bite the bullet and move forward, or you will continue to diminish your size, and people will overlook you.
It essentially is telling you that the opposition, the makeup of how it is right now, it's not working because they don't have the institutional knowledge or memory to be able to fight against these things. So when they say they have smart stream stuff to pop up, they don't know what to do with it.
And then when the tabloids they take hold of it, it turns out people, they get tired of the same monotony consistently, just to repeat the same thing over with two different words. So it has no effect. I tell you, nobody pay no mind. This whole weekend I don't hear nothing about no politics. People couldn't care. It's amazing.
That's what this weekend was
it
about.
Was amazing. It's that people were on to whatever else was happening. We need to be able to understand, because you have to also come with solutions. As an opposition, it's one thing to criticize, but you have to be able to lay out what would be my alternative plan in the light that I do have this issue. Crime, gun crime became an issue. You go and you change the law, you put in these gun laws and different things. It is activity that goes against the grain of society that creates the change or put in place measures to mitigate. Governments do that. All right. All I know, I like the technically 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. I add it to know. When I see whether or not we get value for money, but here we go and I stop that. Or this now happen this way anymore, and create more transparency. That's you moving forward because things will happen. If you recall when the Elvin Penna situation occurred, the nightmare the government put us through as Belizeans to get a passport thereafter because they screwed it up. I'm saying to the government also, don't go create no bureaucracy that is going to make the soldiers can't get their food on time. Because the same BDF that these people, that the tabloids and them interview said that we put in place that system. The man said it himself. He said we put that in place because the bureaucracy took too long. So we found a way to be able, because they said the BDF need their food. You know, that the BDF, they said I didn't do it, you know.
See, Troy, this entire smart stream thing, right? It has dominated the news for weeks now, right? And I think we're missing one of the key things that you said to me a few weeks ago, and I was able to kind of process it and think about it in the sense that we live in a small country, right? I remember going on this journalism course a long time ago, and I met all of these wonderful journalists, and my friend who's now my friend from South Africa said, I can't believe Belize only have 400,000 people. At that time it was less. You all must be related. There's no way. You all must be related. And I said, we pretty much, everybody knows each other kind of thing. You know, it's a... And so when you take that analogy and you apply it to the whole contract system and the government system and services and whatnot, goods that are being offered, I could understand where there will be relatives who provide services in certain ministries. I could understand where certain contracts can be given to these people. But you have to be able to decipher, you have to be able to discern when it's an abuse of power. So you have the Oscar Mira situation. That, in my mind, was a total abuse of power. That clearly shows that, because you cannot, it cannot be that only your siblings are able to provide these services in your ministry. Well, when he was Minister of State at the time. That's impossible. There must have been some other entities that could have provided similar services, not your entire family. You buy vehicle, you sell truck, you buy meat, you buy vegetables. For one family, that is a clear abuse of power. I don't even think that the Prime Minister should even contemplate a return to cabinet, because that essentially tainted your party. He did exactly what Penner did to UDP. When Dean Barrow had to get up in the House and say, for God's sake, stop it. This is like a deja vu all over again. But it's not to say that because of that situation, no family member should be able to get contracts. I think that would be a bit extreme, and I think it would be a bit unnecessary and unreasonable, right? So when you have the cabinet secretary, right, name comes up in a smart stream, or being affiliated or a registered member of a certain company and what have you, you know, I sat down and I read this thing and I thought about it and I thought about it and I said, you know what, I think we're pulling at straws now. I think now we would have want to go through the whole smart stream at this point and say, oh, so that one related to Prime Minister, that one related to that one. Make we be reasonable here, right? So the Prime Minister is doing the audit. Good, wonderful. He's authorized the audit. I understand the Auditor General office was in the Ministry of Defense weeks before the Prime Minister said the audit was happening. So obviously it had begun long before that. But let us not, you see, when we start pull at straws, what you do, you dilute the essence of the problem. Because now Belizean people have very short span of attention. in the sense that we don't want to have nothing else but Smart Stream next.
Mm.
So, and so you start pulling at straws, and you want to keep the Smart Stream story relevant. So you start bring up all kind of thing. All kind of thing is, oh, this Stuart, let's say they sell black pepper. Oh, this one, they do that. Oh, that what. There has to be, at some point, contracts given out to people we know or people who are close to us, because that is just how it is.
For me, from an economical standpoint and a capitalistic standpoint, there's two things that I look at in this whole noise. Not the 10,000, none of that. That is just your smoking gun mentality. Protocol, value for money. Did you follow the proper protocol, which the audit should prove? And did we get value for money? Those are the two critical components for me that is going to be, I am waiting with bated breath for. I have all confidence in the Auditor General's office for the simple reason that they are professional. She is a professional, and she has an obligation to her own reputation and her own profession and discipline to do a proper audit and subsequently draw a conclusion. That's the bottom line for me from a pragmatic standpoint. All the other tabloidish situation and skies falling, chicken little, that's not Love FM, that's not me, and that's not this station, that's not our culture. We are the adult in the room. We are the adult in the room, and I've said that over and over. We won't go down that rabbit hole because we are not built that way. We are not structured that way. Whether it was Dean Barrow's time, if you go back and look at all of my history dealing with all the scandal under the UDP, I dealt with it in the same pragmatic way. I looked at the passport situation and I said, how can this affect us internationally? How does this damage our reputation for our passport? I wasn't looking at the politics of the day. That is for the PUP to have looked at that point and dealt with that. How are we going to put damage control in place to give confidence that when I present my passport at somebody, some country's immigration window, they no haul me and give me no secondary screening and treat me like some criminal. That was my major concern at that point in time.
And essentially that had taken down the rank of Belize's passport significantly.
Yes, and I'm glad that we're back up.
We're back up again, thanks to the Ministry of Immigration, which reminds me why I was not here last weekend.
2 minutes to 7. I'm going to pick
Yes.
that up right after the
2 minutes
the break.
past 7.
2 minutes past 7. Thank you, Renee. 2 minutes after 7. is now 7 minutes after 7. We're glad you could join us this morning on The Morning Show right here on Love FM and Love Television. I'm joined, as usual, on a Monday by our news director, Rene Trujillo. And certainly, we're glad that you could join us this morning. And we trust that whatever we've been discussing has been engaging and informative as well. Rene, very quickly, is that Prime Minister was at the game. I saw some photograph. I envy him. I wish I was there as well at the MetLife Stadium in New York. I get belated happy birthday as well to the Prime Minister. His birthday was sometime last week as well, so belated happy birthday. But the issue in particular, what I find to be rather interesting is sometimes we try to latch on these things as negatives. I could remember when Dean Barrow got married outside of Belize.
He got married in Atlanta.
Yes, and I was, while everybody applauded it, and that's why I don't have a problem with the Prime Minister going to a game, which I'm sure he paid for.
But the man have a personal life. Why should
game,
that
but
even
I understand
be
some
questioned?
people are having issues with it within the tabloid
So the man only supposed to that about lock up in the office and not
within
go
the
nowhere,
tabloid
nothing?
environment, but didn't say anything when the Prime Minister of Belize took all that money out of this country to have a wedding. And I didn't have a problem with that. You choose where you want to have your wedding, and so I didn't have a problem then, but you have to be consistent. In order for you to be fair, you have to be consistent. Because wouldn't Belizean would have wanted to be able to see the procession of your Prime Minister getting married and all of that? You took that away from us.
Listen, Troy.
But
Prime Minister got the World Cup ticket and his flight as a birthday gift. You understand? That was what it is. He got a birthday gift that took him to World Cup in New York City, and that essentially all expense paid. It was a birthday gift. You can't fault the man for that. They're not I mean,
U.S. President ride on in a plane
that
with
could
a
be
gift
for
to
real,
him.
man. If you're on a nitpick because Prime Minister did one game, then something really wrong with you.
Well, that is what I was
Please make
saying.
a move on to the
Somebody
real
said
matters.
that they were nitpicking, so I thought I'd address it. But I draw the contrast to show that we have to be balanced. If we want to have credibility, we have to be balanced. If not, you're a tabloid.
Troy, I won't even pay that, no, man. I don't waste enough breath on that topic. Move on. Ruta Maya got recognized on Friday.
Ah.
Did you see the stamp?
Yes, I
We
did.
got a $5 stamp.
I see.
Excellent.
That's
So
certainly-
Manuela and Elisa were there,
Uh-huh,
to represent the Ruta Maya committee. And it was one among 11 new designs that were
Yes,
brought out.
yes.
Kudos to the post office, the Postmaster General, Dr. Marsha Price, I believe her name is.
Right.
So I thought it beautiful. They did the sawdust tapestry, stamp with the sawdust tapestry. They did one with cycling. If I'm not
Agriculture.
mistaken, it was the first cycling event.
The 80 cent stamp.
They did one with agriculture and trade show. They did one with
The-
women cyclists.
Yeah.
There we go.
there
So
the
that's
Ruta
the
Maya.
$5 Ruta Maya one.
Yeah, that's a nice one there. They did the four leaders of the People's United Party too.
So they did the
75 cents.
women's volleyball,
The volleyball team.
which essentially reflected sports, inclusion,
Right.
that sort of thing. This is agriculture and trade show in
The
Belmopan,
$2 stamp.
$2 stamp. And then you had, the pan temper, what's that?
This
The
is Panyard. Yeah.
Panyard, the $1.50, which is a staple now in our September celebrations and our
Yes,
traditions.
yes.
So they did all of that, and like I said, Ruta Maya was a part of it. They did young primary school students who were visiting the post office in Dangriga. They did the Queen of the Bay, and they did the 75 cents, which I think is a special edition. See, you have the Queen of the Bay. The 75 cents special edition for 75 years of PUP, right? And it had essentially the four leaders. You had George Price, Said Musa, Francis Fonseca, and John.
Yeah,
Briceño. And so kudos to the post office. Beautiful stamps. I think it was an excellent and very all-around coverage
Yeah,
because it touched on culture,
every 5 years
education,
they.
leadership, women, everything, youth,
Yeah,
everything,
yeah, yeah.
culture, everything. And
Yeah.
I love that. And I heard some people, or I read on Facebook, people were complaining about, oh, why did you pick the PUP? Da, da, da. You know what? It's beautiful. And it's like the Postmaster General said, it's a representation of what Belize, it tells a story of Belize. I loved when she said that because essentially that's what it does. It tells the story of Belize and all of these things that come together that make us Belize. And I love Belize. I love my country. Have I ever told you I love my country?
No,
Anyway.
no, but you tell me today.
Moving on. So I was in Miramar last weekend.
Uh-huh. What,
And
how was that? How was it? The feeling
You
like
know,
from the diaspora?
I was able, before I get into that, I was able to witness firsthand, right? The kind of efficiencies, the kind of effort, the kind of customer service, the level of services offered by the immigration department. And I have to say kudos to all of them. I don't remember all their names because there were quite a delegation led by Director Dana Blades. And I just see we have footage there. Look at how they're all set up, Troy, their equipment, their paper. And you walk in and the first person you meet is Miss Burby. And Miss Burby takes your name and your information in terms of what kind of service you're looking for. And then she directs you to the proper desk that you need to get to. So if you're
Yeah.
looking for a nationality certificate, renewal of passport, a new passport, a replacement certificate, she directs you exactly where you need to
And
go.
these were all Belizeans.
Yes, these were all Belizeans. And I know we had Anwar Zatina as well. We had Mr. Ball, the IT technician, the IT manager. All these people were there working from early in the morning until late the night. They had a bit of a technical hiccup on the first day, so they worked until about 10, 11 the night to try and make up for it. You know, they while people would think that they're actually out there for enjoy themselves, these people didn't get a break to go anywhere.
I concur with you because
You
I
know?
I did 2024 in Los Angeles. I was there, and I concur that
They didn't get a break to go anywhere.
it was well attended, right?
Yes,
Because the
well
one in
attended.
LA was like, I don't know, thousands of people, but definitely about 2,000 plus.
But the
during
good
those
thing,
periods.
is
Long
that they were
lines.
so organized that you had to make an appointment.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have that congestion all at one time
Yeah.
because people were coming in according to their appointments, and then you did have some walk-ins and what have you,
Yeah,
and so they
yeah.
were able to take care of them. So they're going to be back in Miramar in October to
deliver.
But the service was excellent. I, like I said, for the first time saw this firsthand and was super proud of these public officers there in immigration. I think they did excellent. I met several Belizean women. That woman there is Miss Sandra Young, I believe it was, in the red and white blouse there. She came out and she said she could not believe the quality and the level of service she got. And how quickly, you know, she was processed and what have you.
Excellent, excellent.
I met people I have not seen for years. I met there in Miramar. But that was only like one single part of an entire weekend filled with Belizean people coming together. You also had vital statistics out there, which prove useful because if you're coming for your passport and you need your birth certificate, they
will
print
get
it out right away, Troy.
That's
It's
right.
not something that they have to go back and deliver. You get it immediately in
you
your
didn't
hand.
need an agent.
No, you don't need an agent. You get your birth certificate through VSU right away, right there. Not only that, Diane Locke was there.
Oh, okay.
Diana Locke was there as the JP. Because, you know, on certain documents, you need a
to
justice of
get
the peace.
support.
So she was there providing that service for people who needed that signature. And then Danny Madrid was there, who is the national president of the Justice of the Peace Association. And for the very first time, there was a Florida chapter established. And he's
JPs.
sworn in, of JPs. And he's sworn in 8 JPs,
Oh, nice.
right? I know Carl Diaz and his wife were 2. You had Mike Young, Jr., who
Michael
was
Young
there,
Jr..
Michael Young Jr. Excellent host, by the way. Michael and his wife Desiree. Oh my goodness, they essentially put this entire thing together,
Yeah.
and they were so busy, making everything work. And so hats off to Michael Young Jr. and Desiree for the wonderful job that they did. So you had this Justice of the Peace sworn in. Then you had a medical roundtable, which for me was perhaps the most interesting. So you had these professors and these medical experts, these doctors from several universities, including the University of Miami. And they met at a round table along with our people, Dr. Lisa Johnson, wonderful, wonderful woman from the university. She's the dean of the School of Medicine, UB School of Medicine. You had Dr. Wyon. You remember Dr. Wyon? She was on the seat with us on the morning show.
She was, yes.
And you remember Dr.
Swan.
Greg Arana?
Yes, Greg.
So you had Dr. Greg Arana, you had Dr. Wyon Swan, you had the CEO of KHMH, which Wyon is the Director of Medical Services at KHMH. Then you had Shireen Reyes, the CEO of KHMH, and all these people were at the table talking about how they can collaborate. And so what's happening is that UB is not satisfied with just a provisional accreditation. They want more, which is natural.
Full accreditation.
Yeah. And so what they did was they were learning from these universities on how to go about, having international standards, establishing all of these protocols and these policies, and going through the processes of making UB School of Medicine a very accredited, legit, and recognized one, not only for Belizean people, but also to encourage regional and international students to come and study in UB. So
great.
One of the questions I had asked Dr. Johnson, I said, how do you then counter the reputation that Belize has gotten because of these bad universities? Remember, we have
medical
in our
school.
Yeah, the medical school have tainted us essentially. And so she's saying, well, that's essentially one of the first questions that come up. And so they have to say, we are the National University of Belize. They have to try and convince all the key players out there that they're not affiliated with those other schools of medicine and that they're the National University. So that's going good so far, But the roundtable was good. And then you had another team who had a tour of the Baptist medical facility, which has a cancer care. It's like 4 stories. And so they did that tour. Danny Madrid, who's a director of KHMH as well, was also on that tour to tour that facility. And then you had Belize Day. So when we got in on the Wednesday, I think it was, the evening, there was the handing over of the proclamation, right? So July 11th now is proclaimed as Belize Day in Miramar every year.
Okay.
So they handed over that proclamation to Walterine Brown Neal, who represented Kaya Catus, because Kaya had not reached us yet.
Okay.
And so the mayor of Miramar handed over that proclamation, which makes July 11th Belize Day every year in Miramar. So you had that, and then you had Belize Day, which was July 11th at the town hall. You had tamales, you had rice and beans. Yes, you had powder bun, you had cotta brute, and there's my family. I don't know why William did show my family, but I was able to.
They were in Miramar too?
Yes, I was able to reconnect with all my family living out there.
All right.
But if you notice there, you had all sorts of juice. You had tamales, you had rice and beans, you had escabeche, you had oxtail. You had it was a.
It looked like it was well attended to.
It was, and then you had Chico Ramos on stage.
Oh wow!
Right, so it was really well attended, and you got to meet a lot of Belizeans.
There goes Chico.
I got to meet a lot of people, like literally a lot of people, Troy, that said, "Oh, I love you and Troy on Monday mornings."
We love them back.
And so see, you had the chocolate making. What you call it?
They're making it the
showcase,
chocolate.
Yeah. And you had chocolate, you had wines.
They're doing this demonstration.
Demonstration, that's the word I was looking for. But it was excellent, well attended. There you have Miss Phillips.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
All right.
Miss Phillips. So she and her husband, the guy in the white pants behind her, that's her husband.
Okay.
They're one of the ones that said, I love Troy Renee Palm on the
Well,
mines.
it's a good morning to them then. I
But they were
trust that they're tuned in.
absolutely fabulous, you know. And so it was quite an event.
Yes, indeed.
Can't complain. Very, very well attended, very entertaining.
And I'm glad that we had a chance to be there to record these moments, because it's important for us to keep that connection with the diaspora, because we know how important they are to the support they give
That's
back
the
home.
mayor there.
The mayor of
Yeah.
Miramar.
Right.
Yeah, the support they give back to Belize on a consistent basis can't be overlooked or diminished in any way. So we certainly always glad when we could kind of come together. And this certainly showed quite a number. I mean, primarily those persons are actually Belizeans that were there. So
But it was good. It was well
good,
attended.
good reporting too,
talking-
because I kept up with the reports that were coming in as well, and the news coverage. So I think they got the exposure that was needed as well, because I always say, under or over all that people may want to have as negatives, good things are happening across the board.
Indeed,
You know-
and I wanted to highlight that, because we tend to always think negative and talk negative about our public officers and our ministries and our governments, and we very rarely put a spotlight on the good things that are happening. You know, there you have Desiree Young. That's Michael's young wife,
Right, yeah.
Michael Young's wife, sorry.
Yeah.
And she was very essential through all
Yeah.
of that. This entire weekend, the entire weekend actually. And then I got to meet the ambassador. There was a meet and greet of the ambassador, Nestor Mendez.
Okay.
Right? Excellent guy. Really down to earth, you know, dancing and enjoying himself in the club. and what
Belizean
have
man,
you.
Belizean.
Yes, the Belizean came out in him. But, you know, he was there when the proclamation was delivered. And he and I sat down. We had an interesting conversation. We talked about Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We talk about the support that these events get from MOFA. We spoke about his role as the ambassador, what he does there, because essentially he's based in Washington,
Okay.
right? And he got a special invite to come to Miramar for this event. And so he flew in along with his wife. Very lovely woman, Miss Elvira. I got to meet her as well. But he and I had a real sit down. You know, I got to know about how the whole Ministry of Foreign Affairs work, his role there, how he meets people in the entire U.S., you know, the services that he offer. So again, kudos to Ambassador Nestor Mendez, wonderful guy, along with his wife. There he is shaking hands with Mayor Messam there on the stage at Miramar. This was on the day of the
Proclamation.
proclamation, I believe that was.
Okay.
Yes, this was Wednesday night. When oh, it was
Yeah.
Saturday. Okay, so William is correcting me. William was with me as well.
Oh, okay.
Awesome
okay.
sidekick, by
So
the
we're
way.
looking at his footage.
Yes, William was so excellent. He had a camera everywhere. It's like
Oh yeah.
so we came back with a lot of footage. And so that was the opening ceremony for Belize Day that we saw there on the Saturday, July 11th. But of course, I want to say thanks to Ministry of Immigration for being so open, Miss Dana Blades for doing the interviews and letting us be able to speak to her staff, to witness the entire process. I want to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I want to say good morning to Ambassador Nestor Mendez and his wife. And of course, to everybody who allowed us to interview them, sit down with them, talk with them, you know, that sort of thing, and get an idea of what really was happening out there. Understand that there will be another passport hub in Evanston, Illinois next month,
Okay.
right? So that may be a work in progress.
Yeah.
So
And it's important, like I said, for these things to occur, because there has been that sort of disconnection. Some people believe with the diaspora, and especially in terms of getting services, like those things like passport services. And so Sometimes it's difficult. You feel like you're kind of like out there in the wilderness, and you would have to catch a flight to come all the way to Belize, and it becomes very costly and time consuming because some persons may not be able to get time off from work, or sometimes you need to get your passport renewed because you want to maybe travel. Some persons might be out there on green card, not necessarily
You know what
as
was
citizens.
one of the interesting things? Like while we were doing coverage of this event, people were actually texting us on our Facebook, Love FM Facebook, saying, "We need them in New York. We need them here." People were calling for them all over the U.S. And two more things that I learned that I did not know is that they've actually been to Peru. The Immigration Passport Hub has actually been to Peru as well. They've been to Mexico, and apparently there's a wide Mennonite community. And then I remember a few years ago there was that mass exodus of Mennonites to Peru, and so they go there to service them
who are
as
Belizeans.
well. Who are Belizeans, right? And they do it as well in Mexico, and there were several other countries that they told me they've been to before. So the United States is not unique in terms of the immigration services being offered. Then there were, the usual critics who said, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
offer this in the U.S. instead of offer it to your own Belizean people, this, that." But I sat down with Dana Blades, and she said to me, "Renee, we've been in several remote villages in the south where you have to go in a dory and check then to try and maneuver with their immigration equipment and their computer in a dory, forget to remote villages that these residents cannot readily access mainland in terms of Belmopan or where they need to go to get
And
their
that's
passport."
not a lot of communities. That might be a few.
And so I'm saying to you that the immigration department clarified that they're not only offering these mobile clinics or hubs to those in the diaspora, but they also do it here in Belize. And so I promised immigration that I will go with them on one of these trips in the deep south to see the challenges yes, and why the last time I got in that dory, I flipped.
Oh, Lord.
Made them at Barton Creek Caves years ago when Yasmin Schumann was deputy mayor and Lilette Barkley.
Oh, a good one.
Yes.
Might
That
be 20
was
years
funny.
ago.
It's been a while, yes.
But nonetheless, these events are an important connection because, like I said, those are Belizeans. Yes, for whatever reason, they have left, mainly economic reasons, that you're trying to better your life. But as they do better, they're able to help their other relatives who are here because most persons do help. Once they have the little wherewithal, they do help. Whether it's a barrel here, a box there, a bag there, it doesn't matter. The cash, whatever, support, that happens almost organically. And we probably even don't quantify it because we only things coming through the formal system, maybe remittances back to the country we track, but we don't track all of those barrels and all those boxes and things coming back. We don't quantify them and that kind of support at all. So the only those things coming through Western Union and MoneyGram, and so we could track.
Because a simple thing that after I did my first report, I got several calls. "Can you bring this back for me? Can you pick this up and bring it? Can you do?" I brought things back for people.
No. Okay.
And so I'm saying to you that it's those little things as well that you can't track, but it adds up.
It adds up. 31 minutes after 7 or 29 minutes to 8. If you got to be at work at 8, I think you better start to move. Otherwise, you are going to be late. We take a break and we come back and we continue our discussion.
Good morning. Little to no rainfall was observed overnight over most areas except for an isolated shower over Punta Gorda. Conditions are expected to continue warm and relatively dry over our area. The 24-hour forecast is for mostly sunny skies today and partly cloudy skies tonight. Showers, if any, will be isolated. High temperatures this afternoon will be 88 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 94 inland, and 82 up in the hills. Tonight's low temperatures will be around 82 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 75 inland, and 68 up in the mountains. The winds will be from the east and northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and the sea conditions will be light chop. A low tide will occur at 9:04 this morning, followed by a high tide at 2:42 this afternoon. The moon will rise at 11:19 this morning, and the sun will set at 6:29 this evening. In the outlook, fair and warm weather will continue with only isolated showers on Tuesday and Tuesday night. In the tropical weather outlook, at 6 a.m. this morning, tropical depression number 2 was located near 28.6 north, 85.6 west, or about 110 miles south of Panama City, Florida. The depression was moving to the northwest at 3 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. Number 2 was located near 28.6 north, 85.6 west, or about 110 miles south of Panama City, Florida. The depression was moving to the northwest at 3 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. Elsewhere in the region, tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. And this concludes this morning's weather report prepared by the National Meteorological Service.
Pelican is more than just brooding.
It's now 21 minutes to 8, and like we said earlier before we went to the break, if you gotta be at work at 8, you gotta get moving, otherwise you're gonna be late. You gotta get out the gate, otherwise you will be late, and that is not a
Sure,
very
they
good
have
way
one,
to start the week.
They have a lamppost by Roaring Creek.
Going quick.
I send you the picture, Will. That residents in the area are asking if BL could kindly give some attention. It's leaning
Oh,
and isn't quite stable, and it's
Okay.
right next to a yellow house apparently.
oh,
So they're asking BL if they could just look into that and see how they could rectify that issue.
Yeah.
Again, a leaning lamppost in, there you go,
Yeah.
in Roaring Creek.
yeah, that's could be scary if maybe it's broken too, 'cause it look kind of pretty old.
Yeah. So if BL could just attend to that, that would be great.
Excellent. What else you have
Now,
in your pocket?
Police Constable Jean Gamboa.
Mm-hmm.
I got a letter last week, a copy of a letter, whereby a request was made to the Security Services Commission to release PC Gamboa to the Public Service Commission. Right? I find it interesting and curious, and I'm not sure if we're being BS'd in an explanation of this situation. But apparently, PC Gamboa, who holds a bachelor's in English and whatever else he has a bachelor's in, is going to be, or is a top candidate for the Assistant Deputy Chief Transport Officer in the Ministry of Transportation.
Assistant deputy or deputy?
Assistant Deputy Chief Transport Officer.
That's a strange post. 'Cause
So-
you have a chief transport officer, you have a deputy transport.
So you have
and
Leon Gentle, you have Peter Williams, and now they're looking for an assistant deputy
To the deputy.
to the deputy. And according to Chester, they're looking to compartmentalize in terms of administration, enforcement. Right? So the same way in immigration, how you have one director of passport, then you have one director of
Nationality.
border controls,
Yeah.
and you have one director of whatever else. That's the explanation from what I understand Chester Williams said, to have one responsible for administration and one responsible for enforcement. Nothing is wrong with that, you know. Because,
meaning that this person,
well, I don't know what
would
role
have-
he would play.
So-
Because according to Chester, and this is where I get a bit suspicious, Chester says a final decision has not been made. So if a final decision has not been made, then would you not be jumping the gun by asking the Security Services Commission to release this man to the PSC? Why then would you sign a letter dated June 29th to ask for John Gamboa's release?
yeah.
You know, and so it brings up the question now, because people are saying, all right, John Gamboa is Aaron Gamboa's son. Aaron Gamboa is Chester father-in-law, which would make John Chester brother-in-law. And in that very same interview, Chester accepted or admitted that he did hire his brother for a post in the Ministry of Transportation. He says,
just hired his brother.
yes. He says, oh, but there were real mega posts, you know, in the maintenance or something like that. Nothing big, it's not the post, it's the optics. And we keep saying this and people not listen. If you wanted to give your brother a job, find it in another ministry. You understand? Because now it looks bad that you admitted to hiring your brother. Now you're telling me that the lead candidate for the position of Assistant Deputy CTO is your brother-in-law.
I wasn't aware.
So after that interview, I got several calls, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal until people started calling me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then one person said to me that that Chester went into a staff meeting and said that You know why nobody applied for this post? How true that is, I don't know. It sounds a bit ridiculous.
Or they won't put
Because
it out?
remember, you have to put out internal and external. I have not seen the ad that was made external for that position, but I did see a memo, and my phone is dead, but I did see a memo that somebody sent me. 1 second, let me pull that up real quick here. I did see a post that, a memo, sorry, that somebody sent me whereby there was an internal vacancy advertisement for 9 traffic warden grade 2, 9 transport officers, 2 assistant chief transport officer, 9,
To assistant chief transport.
exactly, not assistant deputy chief transport officer. The memo actually has 2 assistant chief transport officer. But in the interview he did last week, he said it was assistant deputy chief transport officer. So,
Maybe that's why he's saying things haven't been
so
finalized yet, because they might
this-
be still tweaking the post.
this was dated January 26, right?
Okay.
That's the vacancy that was dated January 26. And then on June 29, 2026, it says Mr. Jean Gamboa has expressed interest in the vacant position of Assistant Chief Transport Officer. The memo in June says Assistant Chief Transport Officer, but Chester says it Assistant Deputy.
Must have
Weird.
misspoke.
Probably.
I would focus on the written words.
Okay,
Yeah.
within the Department of Transport, Ministry of blah, 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 the ministry is in full support of his application and have since submitted to the Ministry of the Public Service for his transfer.
All right, you see, I'm trying to work through my thought process. You see how the police have commissioner, deputy commissioner, then you have assistant commissioner,
Uh-huh.
which is a lower post than the deputy.
Correct.
So I'm trying to look at the hierarchy, as you were saying, that they wanted to compartmentalize. So now you'll have your chief transport officer, deputy, and then these assistants would fall underneath as assistant chief transport officer. But they are lower rank than the deputy. The deputy would then supervise them.
Uh-huh.
Technically, that's what I'm
Well,
seeing.
he did say that they're
Developing
not
that kinda-
getting rid of Peter Williams because that was one of the questions. That has been rumored for a
Yeah.
while now, that they were trying to give Peter Williams the boot out of Ministry of Transportation. But
Okay. Wasn't
it continues to say that the ministry is in full support of his application and have since submitted to the Ministry of Public Service for his transfer on promotion to the post of Assistant Chief Transport Officer. Therefore, request is being made for your support in providing the following. Release from the Security Services Commission to the PSC. Support for his requests, it says attached, and 2 recent performance appraisal reports. So this was on June 29th. I don't know how the process worked, but, why are you already asking for...
When I'm looking at that, that's probably the right protocol, because what is being done is a request, as you read that. Because MPS still has to look at the legitimacy of that. The Ministry of Public Service still has to approve that. That's a process that has to be looked at in the context of everything. So while the ministry might have its desire, if it is in contravention, then there's going to be some sort of pushback from the Ministry of Public Service or adjustments made accordingly. So if I'm to read that, that's not a done deal.
Okay.
That's not a done deal. That's a process that I want to hire Renee, but somebody else have to agree to hire Renee as well. So, but I am the one that's initiating the interest in Renee. And so I said to whomever, listen, I like Renee. I think she'll do a good job for me, but I need for this process to occur. And so you go to MPS, and MPS said, no, I think this will create some disruption, this and that, whatever it is. And then right there back and said that matter either not get approved, or this is how it has to be done in this fashion, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you promote persons and they're supersession, so the ministry can send it back to you and say, listen, you're superseding somebody who was due this promotion and you're superseding them. So I ask you to revisit your position again. That can also happen. So right now, based on what you have read to me, because I'm not familiar with the situation, but what you've read to me is him, I have a desire. And here is my desire, and this is what I would want you to do. The other side now, the Ministry of the Public Service will look at that and see how disruptive that is going to be to the government service, and they will respond accordingly in accordance with the public service regulation. They will respond back to them in accordance. So I would say, let's see how the response would be. You said that was written on the 29th of June, so normally 2 to 3 weeks it would take before the public service will respond. The Ministry of the Public Service.
Well, I stand to be corrected because based on what I've read, you know, and he said that there were only 2 applicants to the position.
Okay.
Somebody within the Ministry of Transportation, a transport officer, called and said that he was very clear that while the memo was issued for internal vacancy, that he would rather that they not apply, right? Whether that is true or not, I was not a fly on the wall. I was not there, so I can't see.
Yeah.
But I did not see the advertisement
This
for
is,
the vacancy.
this is how it normally works, right?
No,
The
I know
the
how it
vacancy
normally
comes out.
works. I'm saying
What
that
somebody say is
people are saying protocol was not followed.
Is irrelevant normally because the process follows a step-by-step circumstance. You apply. The vacancy comes out, you apply. But you apply to the Ministry of the Public Service because generally that's where the funnel is. Then if it is that there needs to be shortlisting, that's what occurred because the Ministry of Transport would say, I have this vacancy, and that vacancy is sent out by the Ministry of the Public Service. It's not sent out by the ministry. That ministry requests that I need to have an Assistant Deputy Chief Transport Officer. These are the criteria that we want, and the Ministry of the Public Service sent that out. Then they will do a shortlisting. Then they will do an empanel. A panel is going to be put together to do an interview.
So essentially, the president of the Public Service Union has a problem with it, with the whole selection process, with the whole matter. He and I spoke extensively yesterday. William, if we could bring up that video. He's currently traveling. If not, you know, he would have called in to express his views on the matter. But he did send a recording.
World Cup?
He's in Grenada on some
opposite
some
direction.
summit. Yeah.
Okay.
So William, if we could just bring up the Dean Flowers.
Hi, good afternoon, Dean Flowers, President, Public Service Union. So Renee, thanks for the opportunity to offer my honest and sincere comments or to give an opinion on the recent wranglings inside the Department of Transport. Now, since the airing of the interview of both the Chief Executive Officer as well as that of the Chief Transport Officer, I wish to put on record that I have received several submissions from public officers within the Department of Transport, and ranging from different ranks, really and truly suggesting that they are in complete disagreement with some of the pronouncements made by the Chief Executive Officer in the Department of Transport and the Chief Transport Officer himself. It's unfortunate that when legitimate concerns are being brought to the forefront, that truth does not prevail. Let me first address the matter of the employment or the recommendation for the employment of a police corporal to the post of Assistant Deputy Chief Transport Officer. First and foremost, it must be stated that the vacancy notice that went out for those positions were internal postings, meaning that in accordance with the recruitment and selection manual, when a vacancy arises, it ought to be published internally. The CEO ought to look internally to identify public officers within that department that may have the requisite qualifications, experience, and skills required to assume a higher post. So that, in my humble opinion, that's where the first step went wrong. The chief transport officer ought to have shortlisted him. He should have conducted a shortlist himself to ascertain whether they were, through such individuals, suitably qualified. Having satisfied himself that there were two such officers suitably qualified to fill those two assistant positions, then he ought to have made a recommendation for consideration by the Public Services Commission. If there were much more than two persons, let's say 5, 6, 7 persons suitably qualified, that is when you want to publish the vacancy and you want to conduct interviews and meet with your people from within to provide for upward mobility, which is the structure of the public service, to provide that even a cleaner or clerk can matriculate up to becoming a head of department. If you look at the vacancy notices that they speak of, those notices were for internal purposes. They were not meant for external applicants. And so, when I look at the vacancies that were published, the corporal in question had no business applying because it was not an externally published vacancy. So he ought not to have been shortlisted. Secondly, if you look at the vacancy, which I will share with you, the vacancy notice was poorly written because it did not necessarily outline the qualifications required for the post. It simply said you needed to have an
Yeah, that was pre-recorded message from the
Yeah, it was a
president
snippet of it. He did like a 25-minute piece there for me, but you know.
Well, again, in there, I think he made the point that it's a recommendation that doesn't necessarily have to be approved. So, again, the whole due process, as he's pointing out, that might have been flawed, could well be the reason why maybe something like that might not even be approved. I don't know. The point is that
The essence of it is that people who work within the ministry, within the Department of Transportation, who feel like they were jilted because they felt that they were qualified to elevate to that position and felt as though they were jilted, they were hoodwinked, right? And I think that is the crux of the matter right there.
There's this overarching feeling in certain sector or areas that we might need some new blood to come in and straighten up things. Sometimes if you believe that things are not running in accordance with how you, maybe the CEO, may want it run. We're not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, and I don't know that to be a fact. I don't know that to be a fact either. But I'm just saying sometimes that's why because he made the point that he believed that while this is a public officer, a police officer is a public officer as well, but doesn't fall under the Public Service Commission,
Correct.
but fall under the Security Services Commission, and would not be considered maybe an internal memo to the Transport Department. However, somebody coming from the outside with a different set of eyes and so to maybe straighten up things that we think the CEO might think might be going wrong. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt why he wanted somebody. I never looked internally and said why I could promote this person up to this level. So again, if those persons didn't apply because they said the CEO telling not to apply, my advice to them that can't be a reason or should not have been a reason. But I understand how people mind work. If somebody tell you not apply, you kind of feel like you box me out anyway and so on and I'll waste my time.
Well,
But
there was one officer who said they recorded the meeting, but he's a bit hesitant to release it. But he said that he he could make me listen to it,
Well,
right? You know, that the fear of victimization is real.
no, I said, well,
You
listen,
know, and he said that he did record Chester in the meeting, and you know, there were several other complaints that they segued into in terms
you
of
have to left their phone at the door.
why.
The point here, is that for me is very simple. There's a process that should be vetted by the Ministry of the Public Service. If that they feel that that process was done in a fair manner to arrive at that conclusive recommendation, then they have to review that and make their view known. That has to be passed back on to the CEO who sent in the recommendation. Either they're not going to approve it at this point in time because of these circumstances. Supersession is a big thing in the public service. If persons believe that they're being superseded, they can do their own protests. The problem here is that this was a public note, or this was a notice for vacancy, that those persons who felt that they deserved the post, they should have applied. Now, if they were told not to apply, that should not have been done. Nobody should tell you not to apply. You apply at your own whim and fancy, because the vacancy is generic. It's for everybody within this department, first and foremost. If you don't get anybody suitable, for whatever reason, you have to make a justification for that. And then you go outside. But generally, you would go through that screening process. He talks about the issue of shortlisting. Those normally is done. Then you put a panel together. Generally, you put a panel together because this is a promotion for somebody. And generally, you're saying it's a new post too. So first, you had to get clearance from Ministry of Finance to establish that new post, because that requires a new set of salaries to be assigned to that particular post. Then you put your panel together, which should include a member from the Public Service Commission. And then you make your selection. Normally, it's a 4-persons panel that will then interview the applicants then that made the short list, and then you make your selection thereafter. That's the right
I think
procedure.
the situation leaves a lot of questions unanswered, and some clarity is needed in terms of that entire process.
I will look into it to see where the situation is, because from my understanding, the process has to, there is a legitimate process, as the President has pointed out, that the whole selection process.
Well, Troy, I
is
really
clear-cut.
hope you look into it.
But I will.
The nation is witnessing that you will look into it,
No,
because you're
I've
a
said
member of the PSC, and you will come back and you will report accordingly. And you know what, take up for nobody. You want come and say what it is. Tell me what happened. Where did the process get flawed?
Somebody says, great explanation. The CEO is trying to right the ship, but I will. The rest of the things I don't want to read it like that, because it's not. For me, is let's deal with the facts.
For me, if you're trying to right the ship, I will never have a problem with trying to right the ship, because the way things work sometimes is not healthy, and it needs some sort of change. It needs to reset. You need to revisit certain things. What worked 10 years ago is not necessarily working today. I get all of that. I understand that. I am not one of those persons who are stuck in the old
Sometimes
age.
the system is bureaucratic, but if you follow it, you get to the same destination.
Exactly.
So
and that's what we need to do.
I have always sat here, and I don't want to be at the risk of not being hypocritical at all. Due process, everything I ask for, because those processes have been tested and tried over a period of time and proved to have worked. Sometimes, yes, we want to move fast. We want short circuit thing. We don't say with a lot of 10,000, under 10,000 payment.
So
that is about understanding that the system, that's part of the system, But the rest of the process is so bureaucratic and takes so long. I don't want to waste time for go through that process. I don't want to waste time for short list. I know that don't take too long. I need to go. You're my man. This is the man I want, and
Yeah.
and you could come in and fix things. But you are going to create disruption. You could get to that same destination by working the process. But like I said, the process sometimes takes long, and that becomes our enemy. Short circuit become the enemy, because now the perception is something fishy going on, and the whole optics, the nepotism, blah 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 comes into play. But you could have arrived at that same point. Then I could have sit there and said, no, they're not so gone at all. This is the way it went, and it just happened that the best candidate won. I had several situations where persons have gone on interview panels, and the person who are acting or kind of like close to the post, always for some reason that the one will bubble to the top. That the person who comes off as a shining star. It's just uncanny, but it works that way. So you would have probably still arrived at the same destination, just taking a little bit longer or a little different route. But 5 minutes after 8, we'll come back and we'll continue our discussions.
Every connection we make is more than just a signal. It's a student unlocking a future through digital education.
10 minutes after 8 o'clock. As we said earlier, I hope that you're already at work and that you're not late. We are inside the morning show right here on Love FM. It is the 20th day of July. We wish you happy birthday if today is your birthday.
Troy, somebody said, I really don't know what kind of magic chest I put by Troy eyes and minds.
Oh, Lord.
I'm kidding. You said it over the eyes and minds of the Belizean people, but it's disappointing to watch.
No, but the point is the point is that due process is important, and it's good to discuss the process and the protocol. This has nothing to do with trying to support whatever it is that the CEO Williams is trying to do or so. I was merely explaining how the system can work, should work, and what he might be trying to do. Anybody who misinterprets that, then you're just in a bad place.
Troy, that brings me up to another topic, and then perhaps we could open the lines. The ombudsman. So you have Jeremy Enriquez, challenging the government. The ombudsman office has been vacant for a while. But then you had Minister Francis Fonseca explaining that they're transitioning from Office of the Ombudsman to a National Human Rights Institute, right? And all of that is fine and well. I applaud that. I have no issue with that. My issue and my concern is that from the time I was working as a reporter in the field, I have interviewed Lionel Arzu, I have interviewed Suazo, and their complaints remain the same in terms of the cooperation that they get from certain agencies and entities. That has been their biggest hurdle when they're in the office of the ombudsman. So if somebody comes and complains about something about police, the ombudsman, both of them have said that the level of cooperation that they get from the police department to close that matter is difficult. It's like pulling teeth. And so as well with certain other agencies. And I think that is where, while we're transitioning to an institute, I think we also need to give it more teeth, give the office more teeth in terms of being able to access information, because really and truly the Ombudsman Office is supposed to bring justice for those who feel like they have been wronged or jilted in some way. But you can't bring justice if you don't have access, if you don't have strength, if you don't have power. And so I'm patient. I'm waiting to see what this institute is going to look like. I think it's a good idea. But I am hoping that it comes with more power and more teeth to investigate people who cannot access an attorney, people who cannot get that kind of legal backative that they need. Then the ombudsman is that alternative, so to speak.
Two things. I am very clear that the minute you decide you don't want to renew Suazo's contract, you should have had somebody else lined up to take that position, because there is no justification for me because you want to change it to some institute. That is on you. If you took long to kind of prep for that, but the public should not be without an ombudsman. You should not have an opportunity where this huge gap where we are now laboring. I have issues and I can't go to nobody. My release or my outlet was the ombudsman. Even if it was just a listening ear, that post should have been there. It is legislated. You want to change and you want to get a lawyer and different, then put out your notice a long time ago and get that person in, because you knew a long time that you wanted to change to a human rights institute and you wanted somebody with legal training. Then you put out the notice for that person, not to be pressured to put it out, because that's what you end up doing. That should not have happened. That's a grave weakness. I don't care about the explanation. We should not have gone one day without an ombudsman sitting in the seat. Somebody that could have been a listening ear. Because sometimes that's all people want. Sometimes is somebody to talk to. The ombudsman represented that position, gives you that authority. Yes, lacks the teeth, just like the Auditor General and others. But the point is that can be strengthened through legislation. Maybe when you put in this new institute, because it doesn't say you still won't need an ombudsman. The role, you might have some other roles in there, and stretching the roles to a bigger process. But some of the functions that the ombudsman carry out right now will continue to be there, continue to have to be carried out. You'll still have to have abuse. When we did and look at Swaza's report and look up and down where the complaints are coming from, primarily many of them are police abuse, natural resources, and other areas. But the point is that in some cases he got solutions as well for persons.
In some instances, yes, it wasn't a total.
So my thing is that I never did supported that lame position. If you wanted to not renew Swaza's contract, that's a prerogative that lies within the administration, because that's how it's structured. Parliament is the government is the majority in Parliament, and once that's a decision they make, that's a decision that is going to be carried all the way to Parliament. So we're not waste time with that. The man don't want you, so don't. That's a prerogative that they have. So, but there should not have been a void. There is still a void. How long it take you to find a replacement? Now there's a vacancy notice I see flashed on the television screen. So that process has to now start to locate that person. Chances are you might not find somebody. So then another delay, because now you have to go tweak and shortlist or change the structure for your vacancy. So all of those things I'm worried about. But there was no excuse why there was not should have been an ombudsman a long time ago. That's my position.
Fair
Plain
enough.
and simple. You know, all the letter dancing around and the institute and they take 3 years and the EU, and that is a foregone conclusion. Put in your ombudsman, make your adjustment to the talk 3 years down the road. What would we be doing during that time? What would John Q. Public be doing during that time? What do they do right now? What's happening? Where are persons? We see how much complaint the ombudsman get. The reports are there. You are shortchanging the public by not putting the ombudsman in place. So hurry up.
You know, we've been saying this for as long as I could remember, since we've been doing this morning show, and I'm hoping that at some point the government will take heed in terms of their public awareness and their and the need for them to put information out there.
Somebody said we need much more ombudsman office. Other areas need to be explored, like the Whistleblowers Act. You are correct. The office should have been filled.
Yeah. What was I saying?
No, we were talking about all these various PR for the government.
The need for government to understand the importance of getting ahead of these things, especially when it comes to public information, right? There has to be, and I know one of the excuses is always, oh, but it's in the Gazette. Who really and truly have access to the Gazette? There has to be a strategy where the government gets, in every ministry, gets ahead of what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, let's use Chester for example, right? Had there been some sort of report coming out of the Ministry of Transportation to say, you know what, this and this and this is how we're revisiting or we're revising the hierarchy or the operations team. So then when the post comes out for an assistant deputy or an assistant chief transport officer, we would already have known that this is what they're doing. They're revising and revamping the way things are done in the ministry. But for some reason, the government feels as though it's okay for them to just make decisions and push these decisions and not inform the public. And I think in this day and age, more than ever, more than ever, because technology rules right now. Social media rules right now. And I think more than ever they need to recognize the importance of that. The importance of putting information out there before it gets away from you, because everything can become distorted. If you don't put out the proper information, the media will distort, the yellow journalists will distort, the social media bloggers will distort, and you will left with all of these allegations and speculations and all of these little fires that you are trying to out. While you could have avoided all of that by coming out and say the Ministry of Transportation is looking to revamp its operations by changing hierarchy, by changing its operation, whatever the case may be. You understand? And then we would have known, okay, they're looking to fold this. I remember that Chester went as far as saying that they have gotten budget to hire new wardens. That much I know. So look at the memo. When you talk about transport officers and warden, that came as no surprise to me. I didn't even blink at that, because you had already done an interview saying
They've been forewarned.
we have already been forewarned that the Ministry of Finance had approved the budget for you to hire X amount of traffic wardens and officers. So we weren't moved by that. We were moved by the fact that there's going to be an assistant CTO, two, not one, two. Where is that coming from? What will these assistant CTOs do? What will be their mandate? How is that going to differ from? You understand?
Yeah.
And you explain these things ahead of time, because the Belizean people need to know that. And if you mention it beforehand, they will be like, oh yes, I know that. And you'll get less flack for it than what you're getting now.
Yeah.
And I think the government in general needs to understand that this is how that works. You have to do it.
You see, there's a lot of things going on a continuous basis. Like you pointed out, the government is doing a lot of things.
Yes, you have a million things running parallel.
And so they have this proverbial balls in the air. And so the long and short of it is that every single head of department, every single CEO, accounting officers have to be aware of any least small changes that could have negative eruption. For argument's sake, within the same transport department, there was a report that came out that then they evict the transport department out of the
bus terminals
because NBC, the National Bus Company, is evicting them. When the explanation is sort of very plausible, that now that you have a functioning company called NBC, they need their space as well. Plus, there is inadequacy, because anybody who visit the terminal may know that they dilapidated. The working condition for those public officers was deplorable as it was. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I certainly can't support that they continue as public officers to operate. And even in NBC will have to retrofit, because the dilapidation in terms of the equipment, the furniture, everything. But if you get ahead of that and say, listen, we do this whole revamping, put out a release, maybe I don't know if I can say that you kind of copy what MIDH normally do, but they try to get ahead of any kind of shift. I notice, if they move one beam down the road, they put out a release. Or so it's kind of like trying to get ahead of every single component, since you find that you're in this kind of magnified scrutiny where people will want to create this distortion, and you see that we have this sort of tabloidish structure now erupting. Maybe you want to change your strategy. Your public relations strategy has to be adjusted to suit the times. Either you're going to ignore mode and do that at your own peril, or you find a way to mitigate.
But you see, Troy, this is where the PR officer comes in. Because every ministry, most ministries have a PR officer. This is where that comes in. Because you have the press office, essentially, that puts out information as to what the government has accomplished. Oh, we've built 10 miles of road, we've paved this, we've done that. Okay, fine. All of that is coming out of the press office. But your specific PR person in your ministry is the one who is to be tasked with putting out this kind of information. And so you have to understand that there cannot be any kind of blockage in terms of the flow of information between the heads of department and the PR. A weekly meeting to say, okay, this is what the ministry is doing this week, what is of a confidential nature that we cannot put out, what is for public consumption, and you do that every week. You do that every week. That should be your task. That should be the way that works. Because the role of the press office is different
Inundate
than
the media.
Exactly, floodway. But at least you recover your butt. You understand? And you're making the people aware and informed. Not going to tell me nothing about no gazette. I have 1,000,000 gazette roll up in my office where I really not even have time for open and read. And I need to go through them, yes, but not tell me nothing about no gazette. Because social media is quicker.
But
Right.
the Gazette is outdated now. And that is why I will harken back to the fact where the Prime Minister is saying now we're going to have this centralized procurement database and all of these things, which is a pet peeve of mine for a very, very long time. For a very, very long time. Because I always had an issue where government is doing its procurement, but they're not getting the benefit of the bulk purchasing and stuff that they're actually doing. So you don't get the volume discounts, you don't get the discounts period because somebody else's,
They
some
want to
public
share the pie.
officers, they buy and then they get the discount and government is not getting it in a way that is supposed to benefit. So take for instance, if you're spending $100,000, do you know what 20% discount is? That's $20,000 you're saving. So the point is that this is going to add more value to the government by centralizing. All I ask is try as best as you can to not have it be a bureaucratic system, because government can be extremely bureaucratic. I have to wait for Rene's signature, I have to wait for chief's signature, I have to wait for that one's signature. Days pass, weeks pass. Oh, Rene's sick. Oh my God! So that now they take all the paper pile up now and stop. Then when they come back, she start from the bottom, work her way up. 6 weeks gone, 8 weeks gone. Overdraft the run for my account where I sell to government. People don't like doing business with government, you know. As much as you say they want it, the general public don't like the business with government because government take long to pay. Because those aren't the only people that government buy things from. Government buy from all the big other people as well. But some of them can wait because they have the level of cash flow. Many of these small businesses can't wait. And government has taken this pledge that they want to help small businesses. And so I don't have a problem with any small business get to do business with government because the large businesses will crowd them out at any given time. But the point is that many times I hear it over and over. When it's government, we have to jack up the price because government will take long for pay, and I want to have overdraft. So you always have a distortion in the price, because when you could buy it at the store for $5, I'll put it for $5.50 because I have to take care of my 50 cents interest. And another study that they happened that ever since. And that's why these $10,000 thing get put in place, so that the government not shut down. Because if I had to go buy one ream of paper and I have to get 5 signatures and I don't get a ream of paper until next 2 weeks because we can't find the signatories and the various persons will stamp and stamp and stamp, everything stop. Your passport can't print. You can't get your birth certificate because we run out of the paper for printed pan and all of these things. And because sometimes things happen, sometimes you might plan just in time inventory kind of structure. We think we got enough, forget it to next week, and then our order. Then bam, something happened urgently, and if you need those paper quickly, you can't get it. But now the 10,000 allowed you to do that. The BDF reminded us that when you deal with perishables, we can't get one whole stack for last one whole year. So we have to get them drip, 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 drip. And by getting it in this process, we had to develop a system. They developed that $10,000 and a $10,000 system in order for those items to come in quickly, because no large persons now deal with government at their level and give government a huge level of credit. And even so, he says, we wait till somebody invoice they stack up. That's why you see sometimes it looks so egregious, because we are saying 10 and 21 lick. but that $10,000 because that's how the goods came in. And he explained it, you know. That he explained it, that how I kind of got a sense of why it is that they end up in these situations. Again, I come back, two things very critical for me: protocol, value for money. Protocol, value for money. Then once we could get past those hurdles, that is where I get into a comfort zone. Need to know, did you follow the right protocol?
So then
Did you
maybe,
bid?
so
Did you
then
this?
maybe,
Did you that?
maybe in that case, like for example, where the BDF have to eat and the Coast Guard have to eat, there has to be a new system in terms of, or not system, but a more efficient approval of payments for things that are urgent like that. You know, like you have zones, you have categories, and they would be like in an urgent category for approval of monies. You understand? It's like here at Love FM, my petty cash supersedes all petty cash because I am a moving unit everywhere, always constantly on the move. And so the replenishment of my newsroom petty cash takes precedence over others because of the nature of the work that my unit does. Likewise, because of the nature of the or the urgency of BDF and Coast Guard getting their payments, they should be prioritized as well. You know, you have the priority, you have whatever other categories.
Indeed.
So they're like what I say, you have 1,000,000 ways to skin the cat.
Director Renee is correct. Government is operating like it is their private business. They need to overhaul government processes for productivity and efficiently. Sadly, I don't think they will listen. They want to go at their own speed. Those are something that we will have to look at the government process going forward for procurement and see how less bureaucratic, and maybe they could create compartments, like you rightly put, where are priority areas, and how we are going to address those in a sort of transparent, accountable way. Because in addition...
You know how you could get ahead of it, like in terms of information? Like I'm thinking, like for example, look at the situation with Cuba and the Cuban Medical Brigade. The media has to wait until we meet somebody who is aware of what's going on to be able to ask, what's the update? Why can't this morning the Ministry of Foreign Affairs put out an update to say, this and this is where we're at in that process? As a piece of information, as a PSA of sorts, to say, you know what, in case because we've been getting that mixed message, you know, from the U.S., and we're seeing other Caribbean countries being impacted and forced to release that medical brigade. A simple thing like the medical brigade, you can just put out a release to say this is where we're at in that process. You understand? They say that they're sourcing doctors. They're looking to source doctors from Guatemala, Mexico, the Philippines. Where are we on that process? Is there a vacancy that has been put out? How are you sourcing it? Put out something to say, you know what, the Ministry of Health is one step closer to doing is da-da-da-da-da-da. This is what we're doing. This is what we're hoping to hire, 20 doctors, whatever amount of nurses. A simple PSA to say this is where we at in that process.
And that UB medical school faculty component is also going to be helped down the road, could be used and said, you know, this could be a supplement. Later you'll have a bunch of interns. You'll have all of these doctors that will be graduating within 5 years. And so, listen, I'm a pragmatist again. I don't have no hang up. Where we speak right now with the relationship with Cuba and the United States, those medical people have to go home. That's a fact. It's going to happen unless there is some relationship mending with Cuba and the United States within the short to medium term. That pressure just will build until at some point you just have to release them. It's just a matter of time. And hopefully we would be in a position to replace them very quickly with the efforts that you just pointed out that they're working on: Mexico, Guatemala, Philippines, wherever. But let us know. But I already signed off on their release. Doctors, nurses, Cuban, no going. That's a fact. 25 minutes to 9, and we'll come right back. Renee, I want to be here longer with you.
Not at all.
It's 22 minutes to 9 o'clock, and we trust that this morning's discussion has been fruitful on the morning show right here, Love FM and Love Television. We usually, for the next few minutes, would open the lines. If you have any comment, any questions, let's be brief so we could get in as much as we possibly can between now and 9 o'clock. But coming back to some of the significant things that are going to be unveiling in front of us, we certainly want to thank first and foremost, sticking with sports, the male volleyball team for winning the gold medal in the Final Four game that took place last week. And, the Ministry of Sports and the National Sports Council had a dinner with them at the Grand Resort on Friday. I understand that went very well. So we certainly congratulate them. And they had a motorcade as well.
After the motorcade?
It was after the motorcade on
Okay.
Friday. So they had a dinner. And so that I understand went very well. So again, it's a part of the recognition, a part of our growth. And we trust the men's basketball team will be leaving this week as well to go to the Dominican Republic to play in qualifier rounds as well of basketball for the Copaba region. Again, it's the qualifier that leads up to normally playing into
You know, Troy, when it
Olympics and
comes to
so.
when it comes to sports in Belize, I think a lot of people have not recognized how far we've come. We have advanced significantly, especially under this current administration. You're seeing far more being done and being embraced and being funded when it comes to sports. And I am pleasantly surprised, not surprised, pleasantly appreciative of, that's the word, appreciative of the government being able to recognize the level of athletes that we have and giving them that kind of support that they need to push further. You see a revamping of the National Sports Council. You see support in all disciplines. You see for the very first time, Belize is the first country in the entire world, and I stand to be corrected, but that has embraced robotics as a sport, you know. And so, because really and truly when you look at sport, you more than me would recognize that sport has a lot to do with mental, intellectual discipline, physical discipline, you know, that all levels of discipline. And so with the way we're going with AI and technology, robotics would play a key role in terms of that level of discipline as well. You know, and I just want to say thanks and kudos to the Ministry of Sports and all those key players in sports. You know, hats off. Belize is making its mark in every discipline. You have track and field, you have volleyball, you have basketball, you have, you know, now you have robotics, and we're making our mark all over the world.
Firstly, I would be the first to say that, you know, we're far from perfect. We're far from doing and performing at our optimum. A lot of it has to do with our own personal discipline as individuals, because we kind of always discount that in the discussion because we always want to blame somebody else. So we're always looking to somebody else, whether it's a government or somebody not putting the money here and putting the money there. But you're not getting up 5 o'clock and go do your run. You're not getting up 5 o'clock and go ride your bike. You're not spending all your free time getting your cardio done. You're wasting time. You're watching TV. You're lying on the couch. You're playing game. You're not doing nothing. That because sports is physical. Where we always fall short is that we don't have the conditioning to compare because we don't put in the time. We don't put in the effort. You have to come ready so you don't have to waste time getting ready. You have to come ready. When a season starts, most people come into, and I see it with basketball, They come in out of shape. When what you should come in out of shape is maybe just the basketball skill level. But conditioning, you shouldn't come with shorter conditioning. You shouldn't use the season to get in a shape. You come in shape, and then all I do is hone your basketball skill, or I sharpen, or I remind you back, or bring you back. We don't do that for the most part. And I could talk because I involved with sports for a very long time, physical sports in particular. So most of the time, the athletes want to say, oh, I don't get help. Which help you need to get up and go run? Mm-hmm. Which help you need to get up and get on your bike? Which help you need to be, you talk about your nutrition. Man,
you know,
man, we get access to everybody come here and say, compared to everywhere else, our fruits are cheap. Everything are cheap. This are cheap. You know, we choose what we want to do, especially then we say, why this sport, why volleyball excel, you know why? Because volleyball, people practice day and night, day, morning and night. Volleyball tend to have like the people who tend to be so passionate about practice, right? You have to be passionate about practice. When I have practice with my team, oh my God, they come, the tennis in their hand, the slippers, the phone in their hand. The practice will start 8 o'clock. They get there 10 past 8, they're not ready. So the coach have to go through 10 minutes of schooling. Every night. Every night. And when you bring the foreigners there, we're supposed they call discipline. By the time they 1 or 2 weeks with Fui people, they get like our people instead of the other way around. Amazing. And I'm saying that not to be negative. I'm calling it a reality. And anybody out there involved in a sport, tell me that I said what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. You tell me. Tell me whether you're involved in football, whether, you know, the other day, which totally baffles me. We have a national team for football, and the reason we couldn't put a team together, we were having issues because the players, they want to pay. Man, please, they're a national team. You should be, the pride should be pouring out of you first to be a part of the team. And that payment, the second, because usually you get time off and work. If you work, you don't get time off because the team, they make sure, and you get at least stipend and try to take care of you with your lean nutrition and so. And then later on, if we got some money, we'll take care of you. But that should be the reason why you don't want to participate. That is so galling to me. When we were coming up, and every time when we talk about the good old days, you know what were the good old days? Amateur days. All the Golden Girls, all the Margaret Ushers and the Linda Lewis, they played for free. They were happy to wear the uniform with Belize printed on it. Everybody, even me as a young boy, when they picked me for the junior team for Belize, what? My jersey I'd worry about. That's my excitement. I don't worry whether they got water for me, or whether they got juice, or whether the tongue, you know, there's a tongue that used to be your favorite refreshment. All I'm saying is not to sound very trivial, but individually, we can do more for ourselves so we can excel. The acceleration to get to that level starts with your first personal sacrifice. And that is a significant component where we seem to be missing in every discipline because we are locked up in a blame game. So we always look for a reason. We look for an out. We look for a scapegoat every time. Why we know? Oh, because you see me, I don't call this morning to complain about how I lose Friday night. Good officiating, we made a mistake and we lose. Done. I don't go back, go rehash that and blame nobody. Blame nobody. Because each player when they out there that night when we lose should be able to say this where they fall short. By this are the free throw I miss. We miss 12 free throw. We lose by 2. Though, if you had practiced more free throw when you're tired, because usually down the stretch of the game when you're tired, that's when you lose your legs, and so you tend to miss more. So conditioning becomes an issue. You're playing in a hot environment. You have to practice. then you should be running at high noon if you get if free. All right, you work Monday to Friday. Okay. So you could run past Saturday, you could run past Sunday at high noon to get your body used to heat. So when you play indoors but in a hot environment, because only the city center got air condition. Otherwise, and that most of the other gyms, we're gonna leave it to air, but they had to. Everybody else that were sweatbox, so you have to develop your stamina for that. So these are another talk from basketball. Football is the same. What time did this match play? Not 1 o'clock in the United States, high noon. Technically in Belize, 1 o'clock is when the sun is at its hottest. You have to be ready. We got a call.
Okay, Troy.
Yes.
Love, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I like one of the topics there this morning.
Morning.
Yeah, well, Troy, I used to be involved just like you with sports. Well, not at the level where you there. I remember when at the managerial side, the ownership and financing and all that.
Yes.
I used to be involved with football, and I had to walk away from football for the same reason. I used to tell them guys, if you want demand so much perfection for the referee, then you try to be as close to perfect as possible. Make sure your pass is accurate. Make sure you're the score. You do your part. Most physical sports that you have to be at your peak at all times, and then you deal with the mental part, but the physical are the first part. So I really agree with you with that. And the more physically fit with people, the more healthy we will be. So I'm really glad the government they push the sports like that. And I like your maturity. We say we lose and you introspect on why you lose. Now I want to go back to our discussion around the make about the BDF. If anybody else, any other department easy for audit, that is the Belize Defense Force. The BDF should have one thing where you call an ARU, an annual report on unit, where you check everything where gets spent, and the BDF thing go through where you purchase, where you get on stock, where you get distributed to the minute level. Everywhere you get 1 pound a pigtail. If somebody want half pound, they sign for that half pound when they go get cooked. And then you have the requisition for the amount of people who want to eat for the day. You have what you call an availability state to even see the consumption of that pigtail.
Okay.
So the BDF that is the easiest place for audit, and I welcome this audit. I'm one of the first people who during sub 10,000 those sub 10,000 invoices, that was around 2010 thereabout. So that from way back then when we do it for expediency of purchase, because of the same reason where you they give. Now, if you just they grab people and they manufacture millionaires out of nowhere, then that's a different thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I really like how the conversation they go. I haven't called because I'm really the wait for a common sense voice, and you have been consistent with the common sense and the what you call it, the fanfare side of this thing. Because there's a fanfare aspect, and there might be crookedness that happen in there, but if like I said, I want to repeat it, if there is any way for audit that system, if there was conductory, that right that it be there.
Excellent.
So I will keep my eyes open, my ears wide open, and my mouth shut again.
You are BDF, or if I could say?
Yes,
okay.
yes, I am a retired BDF from warrant officer class 1.
Okay. Thank you, caller. Appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I will say this again, just for the benefit of those persons who may have joined us late, is that the audit is the linchpin to this whole process, to get to vindication or where there might be something that could have been deemed to be corrupt or where the government lost money. I agree with the caller that you have to be able to find ways to get the BDF their food.
Love, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Troy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Listen,
Hi, Ivan.
I'll talk about this thing what happened with the Garifuna people and the people gone that the Honduran embassy ganga pick it off for.
Oh yes, yes.
All right. I know that the Garifuna people had a treaty signed. The Garifuna people have a treaty signed with the British government, right? And I believe that through the treaty where we signed with the British government, then the British High Commission supposed to come back and look into how the Caribbean and Honduras they get treated, because you can't go to your enemy but ask your enemy to rescue you, right? And we have a valued treaty with the British, active treaty with the British, and that treaty is supposed to be for life. So the National Garifuna Council supposed to take the right initiative and go but look after the people through the British government, unless if they play some kind of politics with it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not familiar with the caller, but I hear you, and I think what they did was the first and foremost to register their displeasure, and they had done so in writing by delivering to the representative of the government here, who is the ambassador, and then subsequently wait for feedback. I'm not sure about the treaty and what will be the recourse hereafter, but I think in practicality they've done the right thing in the sense they have registered their displeasure with what we understand is happening there, for good or for bad, no?
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ivan. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Yeah. Somebody reminded me, Troy, you forget to talk about the impact marijuana and alcohol have on our athletes too. So, again.
The marijuana look like that was staple among young people now.
Yeah. And smoking and conditioning no go together, technically. Alcohol as well. But again, I am not on a moral high horse in terms of those issues. All I will say is that we have to also take on some personal responsibility. It is your personal performance that creates your talent, Because if you're not in condition, your talent can't be shown. And then when I see your talent, I can try to get you to the next level.
Two things I want to mention. One, again, applauding the Ministry of Sports in terms of doing that super selection.
Super Nationals
Recently. I think what they were looking for is like a star search sort of thing, essentially.
Yeah. Athletes were auditioning.
Right,
Kids.
so they were auditioning so that the government can then invest in these super athletes, right, that were selected on the primary and the secondary level. And I think that is excellent, because what we've been doing essentially is throwing money willy-nilly without any strategy or any focus. And I think this will then give you a definitive target in terms of what are we investing in, who are we investing in, what disciplines are we investing in, how much are we going to, how many students or how many boys are we going to nurture in football, how many are we nurturing in basketball, that sort of thing. And I think that was an excellent selection in order to initiate that strategy in terms of spending, because we keep hearing the cry about, enough is not being spent, but what are we spending on? It's like what Minister Mala said, you put $10,000 in a team will go, and they not bring back nothing, and they not. No, if you're going to invest in promising athletes, up-and-coming athletes, those who are trained and disciplined and are working at conditioning themselves for the sport. And I said that to say as well, I've I'm not athletic, and I have very few sports that I actually watch. Volleyball being the main one for me. But I see, like, for example, from my daughter's perspective, every morning at 5:20, I hear the door open, and she's off to go to track. She's off to go work out every morning, 5:30, 5:20. And what I find even more amazing, she can be out with her friends until 1, 2 in the morning, 5:20 that door to open, Troy, without fail.
You have to.
And we're talking about 7 days a week. We not to talk 3 days a week. And I look at her with such admiration because the discipline
and she would
is...
be in the minority.
The discipline is real. I look at her in the kitchen, and she want to do boneless breast, grill it. She's into her vegetables, all of them things. And I said, I have to question her, for who that are you? 'Cause
You don't have that discipline.
I don't have that discipline at all. And so all I can do is look at her and admire the dedication and the discipline that she has. You know, and so I could understand and I could appreciate what you're talking about in terms of the conditioning, you know, and I'm like...
You see, we talk about things like when you look at, say, we're looking at the World Cup and you look at small countries and you have all of these sort of comparisons. But when you look at the athletes and you see the things that they do on the field, and you look at ours and what we do on the field, when we get out there with lesser opponent and the nonsense we do, then you realize that there's night and day because you didn't put in the work. You can't pass.
Yeah.
In football, if you can't pass the ball, you can't keep the ball. You can't score. If you can't hold the ball, you can't score. You have to have the ball to score. We can't pass to save our life. We can't pass.
Yeah.
You know why we can't pass? Because we're not in a shape.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to spend time to practice the fundamentals, you know. In basketball, you know what we prefer to? Scrimmage. We don't want to stay right under the rebound and just rebound, throw the ball up, and do that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or do a layup, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. We don't want to spend no time because that's boring.
What they don't understand is mundane is discipline.
Yeah, that's boring. They don't want to do nothing without the ball. You know?
Mundane is discipline, and that's
and
a
so
lot of it.
we can't pass.
But I just, it's time for you to do your closing. But I just wanted to say kudos to the Ministry of Sports, because I personally am seeing where effort is being made than my memory serves. I'm still young, so you know.
Right.
But as far as my memory serves, I can see where efforts are being made in that regard when it comes to sports. And I also want to say good morning to Minister Julius Espat and the team there at MIDH. Troy, I would venture to say it's the most hardworking ministry.
Got a lot of work.
MIDH. You know, when you look at Marissa handing out these houses, when you look at the workers cleaning up the police stations, Troy, they did a countrywide cleanup of, and if you look at the condition of those police stations,
again,
what were you doing?
Exactly. Again, you come
what
back.
were the ministers of police doing?
You come back to this is that you accept mediocrity. You have to put in your own personal effort. So if you get there and you see the place look funky,
the environment does a lot for your morale.
How hard it is for us to get some paint and rub some paint here and there.
But not only the cleaning, the filling of the potholes, all of them thing in the lots. This is what MIDH has been doing since Julius took over police. It's incredible. So you have to say good morning to the CEO, Victor Espat, Chief Engineer, Evandale Moody, Minister Julius, Marissa, Esperanza.
He has an unfair advantage. Because you could have budgeted it and then you could have get them, or you could have hired an ordinary person to fully patrol, or bring in the backhoe and clean the place.
Correct.
You could have done that yourself. I mean, what the commissioner did do when he walk in our place and the place is dilapidated or so.
Your environment does a lot for your morale. It boosts your morale, and so I just wanted to put that out there and say, you know what, I'm very proud of looking at what MIDH is doing with the police department and in general with their original mandate as MIDH. So I just want to say good morning to all those guys there. And great job, wonderful job from my observation.
Yes.
Please
what
wrap
is-
up your show before
Yeah, Mr.
producer
Julius
takes
is a
over.
professional with pride versus being just a politician. Exactly. Michael Jordan practiced for 6 hours each day and night on fundamentals. All right. Let me wrap. 3 minutes after 9 o'clock, I'd like to say thank you to Armin Arana for doing this morning presentation on Love FM and doing a good job at that and reading the news. I will not say
Troy,
anything
would you
else.
just leave that alone?
And also and also want to
Yes,
thank
move on. Wrap
our
up.
producer Manuela Ayuso and Richard Herbert, as well as Andrew Jones for streaming, and our master control operator, your body there, who was in Miramar with you, William Usher. Certainly thank you. All of yours are listeners throughout the length and breadth of this Be a Beautiful Jewel of ours. We certainly thank you. Glad you could join us. If you were streaming as well, certainly we welcome you. Our callers this morning, certainly thanks for the call. And, you know, if you're celebrating a birthday today, Renee, it's the 20th day of July. We say happy birthday. If you're celebrating an anniversary, thank you for sticking it out. And as usual, I want to say, join me tonight, myself and Darrell. We'll be doing the business hour. And join me tomorrow morning, where I hope to do this all over again just for you. And of course, we do know you have choices where you get your information and your entertainment from, but we are always grateful. And we certainly appreciate when you choose love. And because you choose love, we will always say, Belize and beyond. Thanks for choosing love. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Good morning. I say good morning, Belize, and good morning. And how are you this morning?
Get up every morning, like go to work and get it light. Get up every morning, like go to work and get